More often than not, when we are not good, we end up hurting someone, either ourselves, others, or God. Trying to be good and learning good habits can reduce the times that we hurt ourselves and others. Good habits come from the inclination within us to carry out good actions and are called virtues. We can develop virtues through repeated good actions. However, we also need God's grace through prayer and the sacraments to help us acquire and practice the virtues successfully and for the right reasons.
My husband and I felt really strongly when our children were little that we needed to have a home where kindness was really evident. And the expectation was that everyone would be kind to everyone else. And of course, within the muckiness of family life, that doesn't happen all the time. But actually, if you can't say something with kindness, then don't say it.
I think one of the biggest things is that we are trying to be good examples ourselves. And I definitely felt that being a parent, it showed up so much of my weaknesses. So many things where I'm impatient, where I get angry so quickly. And I've really got to be careful. I've really got to work on myself. So it's the same things that I'm going to correct on my children, I've got to correct on myself. And it's quite a hard pill at times. But at the same time, I feel like I know what they're feeling. I know it is hard, and they can see that I'm working on it. So we have to sort of, if we're really helping each other, then we can get somewhere here.
Yes, rewarding progress in the virtues, I think, is quite important. Children do quite well when they've got a reward for being good. So sometimes it's difficult to focus on a heavenly reward, and especially when you're a child, and that having that sort of, oh yes, yeah, oh you've been really good today, that's been really good behaviour, here you can have an ice cream or something.
All good habits are linked to the four main virtues of prudence, fortitude, temperance, and justice. Together, they are called the cardinal virtues. The word comes from the Latin word cardo, which means hinge. A hinge is that part of the door that helps it to open and close, that is, to work properly. The cardinal virtues are the hinges that help our lives work properly and that help us to live a good life and behave well towards others. The virtue of prudence helps us to decide the right thing to do in any given situation. Justice helps us to make sure that everyone has what is rightfully theirs. Fortitude is the virtue that helps us to do the right thing even when it seems very hard. Finally, the virtue of temperance helps us to be self-disciplined in all that we do.
They know when things are done well to them, and so then it's just about turning it around and saying, well, now imagine how that your brother would feel if you did that to him. And they, oh yeah, he'd be very happy. And then very soon they learn that, so that's generosity or patience as well. And then, you know, add a little, not just theological virtues, but human virtues, you know, like manners at the table and waiting for everybody to sit down and waiting to say grace. And you know, you can't really explain it, but what you can do is you can develop the habit, and then the habit eventually turns into a virtue.
One of the things I find is it's one thing you as a parent, giving an example, especially in piety, but you're not the only one there. You're not the only influence they have. And quite often there's things like that where other people that are around you, other people in the community, also can infuse them. And especially when they get towards the sort of teenage age, when they are getting towards the point where they have to make it their own faith. They have to pick it up as mine and really start practicing themselves, out of themselves, and not because my mom said it. And in those years, it really, really helps if they've got some good examples This can be friends, it can be other adults that they have a good relationship to, or just people in the congregation.
I always try to cultivate the virtue of empathy, because actually if you can't empathize with someone else, then I think it's hard for you to establish a real meaningful relationship with Jesus. And without that, it's very hard to understand that actually we are called to love God and to be in relationship with Him.
As well as the 4 cardinal virtues, there are 3 theological virtues which are gifts we receive from God when we are baptized. The theological virtues are faith, hope, and charity, love. Faith helps us to believe what God tells us, no matter how difficult it might seem. A good example of this is the belief that the bread and wine of the Eucharist really become the body and blood of Jesus at the consecration. Hope is about trusting in God at all times. Even when things seem really bad, we trust that God has not abandoned us and that good can come from difficult circumstances. Charity helps us to love God above all things and others, because that is what God asks us to do. What is truly great about the gifts of faith, hope, and love is that, unlike other presents, they do not break, get lost, or wear out. In fact, the more we use them, the better they get.